Now, Anthony, you're kind of working with like some of these other shapes here too. Reuse what you already have, okay? Like this guy, your panel here is not too much different than what you already have going on with your microwave. So I could just duplicate that microwave. We don't need any depth basically, so we can lose quite a lot of that. Let's just pull you in. Whoops. Oh yeah, forgot that I extruded that. Yeah, we definitely don't need that stuff there now. Pull this guy in like that. So start getting our panel set up here, right? Grab these faces here. I think that's about the proportion that we're looking at there. I mean, this could definitely be the game res if you wanted it to be. Handle a chord. You have to find a reference for what chord it actually is, right? You actually might be better off using a torus for this, because if you want to get that inner loop in there, you work with a torus like this. You know, the donut shape. And extend it out. Okay, this is how I tell people to handle chain links, is to just grab, you know, these kind of faces and just drag it out. We can do the same thing with this side over here. So that's probably a better way to handle like your panel area. Yeah, you can extrude along a curve. Oh, did we lose Anthony? Did you move to another device? Okay. You know, it really depends on what kind of chord you're doing. If it's a complicated chord, you can still get it done with an extrude, really. You know, I think a normal electrical chord it's not going to be a pure cylinder most likely. If it is a pure cylinder, then that's lucky for you. You know, I would say that most electrical chords you're going to find on like appliances like this though are more or less going to be kind of thicker like this and then have like an extrusion in the middle. Yeah, they have like that figure eight shape, right? So you can kind of do something like this here where we kind of grab these shapes and kind of push it in a little bit like that. You know, and then, you know, you do that extrude along a curve. Let's see if this works. Nope. Not the right kind of shape that I want there. So I'm just going to have to eyeball this thing. There you go. So something like that. We really don't need like the inside faces, so we can get rid of that. Kind of shrink this guy in there. So yeah, we have the extrude along a curve shape that you probably want to take care of. Let's rotate this guy 90 degrees and get this thing set up the way that you want it to be. So you probably want to pose this thing where it's supposed to be first. And that way you can get your organic shape in there, right? Something like this in there. It's still a little bit big. whatever shape it ends up being, just make sure that you have the silhouette of that shape made up before you do your extrude. Okay. I need to make my curve here first. You know, if it is a different shape than a cylinder, then, you know, just make sure that you put a twist on it, I would say. Yeah. Let me make a curve now. So come over to Create Curve Tool, CV Curve. And let's just do like a curve shape here. So you have to kind of start off with the grid there, okay? And now that that's done, here, let me let's move this whole shape up here. Whoa. I just multiplied that. Lay this thing on the floor, basically. That's what I would do. This. Get your control points now. Let's see. Okay, yeah, that took it a little bit too far. Just kind of drag it up. You know, maybe what I should actually do here is grab two of them. That way I'm getting that curve in there the right way. Okay, and pull it back. You know, try to line it up with what you have going on here. Get it as close as you can. You know, we used to use like vertex faces. That'll get the job done. All right, so we got that curve there now. I'm selecting everything. I just want to select these edges and then select this face. And we're going to do a extrude face. Look at the options. Along a curve selected. Okay, so we need to put some divisions in there now. Just remember how many divisions you use and that you change it up, okay? 25 divisions is probably not going to be enough. Let's go for, I don't know, 40 maybe? Take a look at what you're working with here. It's kind of flat, so let's put some twist in there too, right? Come over here to your twist. I think you have to do that before you get started on this thing. So let's try it now. And then let's put the divisions in there. Okay, so we got like a mild twist going on now, okay? Where this thing is moving just a little bit. It's probably a really thick chord, so it's probably not too twisty. And then once again, we can bump the divisions up to like 40. That should do it. Should get the job done. Okay, and then just delete that history, and then wherever that curve went, you should be able to delete it without ruining things too much. Get that chord where it belongs again. And that's kind of how you pose that thing. Yeah, twist wasn't one of those options though. It wasn't in the extrude. See, it doesn't, I mean, okay, so you have it over here on the side then. You have to add it. Ugh. You'll be able to find it. And then you just put that plug in there. Or you can just rip the chord out. That could be your story element, right? You have all these opportunities to make your stuff original. Probably have some kind of torus. Just try to treat these shapes the right way, right? Do like a 90-degree edge there. I don't really recommend like scaling things, because that's going, scaling torus is just going to cause it to stretch. So just grab half of it, just like I did earlier, and make that little extrusion out and kind of change the shape of it. All right. Now we can do, here's a difference kind of between floating geometry just as a normal map and floating geometry to supplement something else, okay? So I'm gonna rotate this first floating geometry around here. Now we have buttons here and dials, okay, Anthony? So you can have floating geometry. That's a little bit big. You can have floating geometry to make those holes and then just stab buttons in there, okay? So here's just like one of my buttons, okay? This is my button hole. And we basically have like these spherical buttons actually. So let's do a sphere and make a button out of it. Bigger. Let's see what I'm working with here. Okay, let me detach a corner here. Extrude an edge. And get like these spherical buttons happening here, right? This like dial one here is a little bit bigger, so let's work with something like that maybe. Rotate you here at 90-degree angle. Freeze, transform, delete history. Now here's the difference though, okay? Like you want that hole baking on as a normal map, but you don't want to sacrifice the silhouette of that button coming out though, okay? So that button needs to just line up with the hole. And that's not going to mess up with the bake because essentially, once again, this floating geometry needs to be combined with this shape. But if you leave the button a separate shape, the button's only going to bake onto the button. It's not going to bake onto the button hole or anything. And it should be in the right position the way that you want it to. So this is what would happen if you had like screws that were coming out and stuff too, okay? If you had some projection coming out, and you could blend shapes like that too. If you wanted, I go over what I call skirting in the 1.4 activity, where I take two shapes like this and I blend them together. So instead of me using floating geometry to make a hole, I can use it to combine two shapes instead. Let's see what we can do here. Let's grab an edge, extrude it. Put a holding edge there to hold my forms. I want to kind of maintain an area here. We'll grab an edge like this and bevel it. Put some segments in there. And now if I make this into my blend here and we soften it, now that shape is combined with the surface and it looks like it's molded on as one whole shape too. Okay, so you can do stuff like that as well with floating geometry where we can use this, once again, I call it skirting. I don't think it really has a name, but it's just like draping that shape on there to make it look like it's still part of the shape there. So that is also a possibility, although I don't really see that happening on your model a lot. You could probably do it with something like this. And in this situation, yeah, you would need to combine those two shapes together to actually get that kind of thing to work. But you know, for this button shape though, you don't want to combine the button with the shape here, okay? Because then the button's going to bake on, you know what I mean? You actually want your button to stick out so it has silhouette. Silhouette is just how much it comes off of the model. So I would say for a big button like this one over here, leave that separated, only bake the hole on there. There's a pretty clear and visible seam there that happens between those two materials, and that's the big kicker right there too, is there are two different materials. So that probably wouldn't even be a good area to do anything like skirting. You could get the shape there, but you probably want to leave some kind of crease. Yeah. But like I said, you know, if you did want to do skirting, this is what I would do it for, something like this right here. Like if you had a flat face back here and you wanted to do skirting on that, that would be fine, but I don't think it's even really necessary. You don't want to do the more complicated stuff if you don't have to, because it's not always going to work out the way that you want it to. So I would rather you keep things as simple as you can and only do the complicated stuff when it just makes a lot more sense to do it. You know, I don't know if there would be any situation for the pistol to do it either, truthfully. I mean, maybe if like the front sights, maybe if your front sights needed to be, you know, kind of welded on and you didn't want it to conflict with the rest of the weapon, then maybe that could be a situation. But in all honesty, I would try to just model your stuff in, because if it has to be attached the right way on the game res, then you know it's better just to model it in. It's just an ends to a means, really. Everybody feeling pretty good about their models now? And we can come in here, put like our creases in there too. Now you can model these things in separate shapes if you want to have control over them. Um, but if you don't, if it's not really conflicting with the rest of the model, then you can do this kind of stuff. So no harm, no foul. You know, if this door right here, you know, if you didn't want this geometry going around the back of the model, then you could just cut this shape off right there and just leave that as a separate shape, kind of. Because this door, this crease that's happening right here is pretty much only going to stay up here. So I can grab these shapes and do something like this, maybe. I'll pull it in. You know, that's It's adding more geometry this way, but if you work it the right way, then you don't have to have this actually influence anything. That's up to you, really, okay? You know, in all honesty, uh, it's not too hard to separate these guys out. You know, you grab one of these edges, okay? And it's this tool I've been using this whole video. You shift right click and you click detach component. And once you click that, you can actually just separate the model, and now you have two different pieces. So you can work on those individually if you want, if that makes things cleaner for you. However, you know, like if this wasn't a good shape here and you wanted to kind of slide the edges around, you would kind of lose that. So, you know, just make sure that you're nice and set up with your overall shape first before you go separating things. And you can have stuff separated in the high res and then have it combined together in the game res if you wanted to. Like if you wanted these creases to, if you wanted those creases to just be baked in as normal maps, and you could. If you ever wanted to model this microwave to be functional so you can open it though, you can leave that as a separate shape on the game res, okay? And then you would have that capability to go in there and actually make that change. For your door, like the screen here, you know what, that may actually be, that might be a useful floating geometry. I'm not sure. Actually, no. Okay, so here's something that I didn't consider because Maya was obviously blocking my view of the window door here, but you do have a window that you have to put in here, right? That's such a big detail that I would like to see if you can model that in there, okay? And with that situation in mind, that's going to require you to actually have more geometry in this area. So if you don't want that geometry flowing into these other areas, then yeah, it benefits you to separate that out. Definitely, I would separate it. I would separate the door from the panel over here too. Keep it clean. If you have a visual crease there, use that opportunity to segregate your model and make your tinier little workspaces that you don't have to work and hurt the rest of your model with your stuff, okay? This shape here, you know, for your door, I would say do your torus shape. Get that, because it's not as round as your box is, okay? The microwave itself seems to be a lot sharper. So you want to get your stuff nice and rounder to that curvier shape. Make sure that you're working with some good subdivisions here too, okay? Sometimes you guys start off with some pretty low shapes and then you have to go in and smooth that stuff out, and that's not a good idea. Let's see, radius, I probably want an improved radius. Like right now with your torus, there we go, section radius is what you want. You know, you probably don't want like a large slope that's happening there. You want something to be a little more subtle. So this gets the job done, I think. Let's just detach the component there. And I really only need like this interior here. That's all I really need to work with. Woof. Did I extrude edges? No, I extrude faces. Yeah, it's probably better to get that shape in there when you have it fully shaped. I can just go through and delete some of those. Why is it doing that? Okay, whatever. Just get your shape as close as you can. And then you just go through and delete this stuff. Oh my goodness. What have you done? Where did these guys come from? Yeah, this is some messy geometry. Just make sure you clean your stuff up, really. I want to isolate this so I can grab those faces in there. Because these are probably remnants of that first extrusion that I did. Or, you know what? I wonder if my extrusion settings are still set to... No, I don't have like multiple divisions. But yeah, just make sure your back's, you're undoing all your stuff there. You do this exploded view option. All right, there we go. We can probably ditch some of these interior ones just to kind of flatten out the sides. Actually, that was a bad idea. Let's, because right now the middle is like a middle core there, so let's just collapse that edge. And then I can delete it. Now it's in the middle. Well, I kind of needed it to be a little bit rounder than that, though. So let's just try pulling. Okay, that's looking better. All right, long detour there. We're a lot larger than the box now, but we can just scale this down. I think that's the shape that we want, though. Something like that. Just kind of push it in there. Yeah, make adjustments how you need them to be, obviously. It's hard to scale this thing without those handles and stuff in there. Yeah. Instead of scaling, I think I just need to like pull the edges. Yeah, whatever. You'll get the scale right. I believe you. Okay, I'm going to delete this interior face. And you just isolate these two guys together. Let's make an edge loop here so I know where my door starts. I'm way too thin here. I think my button's just too close to that. That's probably what's happening. I need you to be over here a little bit more. Maybe that makes a difference. Who knows? Yeah, I can't just sit here and look at proportions the whole time though. So moving along, isolate all that out. Pull you in to try to be like as flat as we can to that face. And now we know where it's going to land, so we can get rid of this now. All right. I would say my next step here would be to like combine these faces, combine these shapes together. Let's do a bridge between some of these guys here. Just kind of connect those faces together. We can fill the hole now. And just kind of start going to town with geometry. You know, you kind of tell the geometry where to go. I mean, you probably don't want all this stuff here like that, actually. You know what? Here, I'm going to do something real quick. I'm going to grab these edge loops here. I'm extrude out once. And I want to, let's collapse some of these edges down to reduce my geometry this way. Just start working on reducing that geometry down right now. And that's going to make our job a little bit easier. Oh, what happened here? I have an extra. Just delete that edge loop. Do what you can right now to collapse what you can. It's going to make your work a little bit easier now. And now we can work on those bridges. You know, we could probably put some edge loops in here too now. Just put some, try to line some of this stuff up, right? Get rid of some of that problem stuff. And now I can bridge that. Bridge. Bridge. We can fill some of these holes up. Fill hole. Now we can do that triangulation technique. Triangulate faces. Does an okay job. We can also do poke face, which puts a vertex in the middle. That doesn't look as clean though, unfortunately, now that I'm seeing that. I think triangulation face is going to be a better result for here. Many ways to get the job done though, obviously. Just triangulate these faces. And there we go. Soften it all up and see what it looks like. Okay, this looks weird because I don't, this is a different material, so I need to make sure that it's all a blend. There we go. Alrighty.